The United States is intensifying the war in Iraq and Syria in the hope that it will eventually lead to talk of peace.
Next, in full coordination with the government of Iraq, we're deploying a specialized expeditionary targeting force to assist Iraqi and Kurdish Peshmerga forces and put even more pressure on ISIL. These special operators will, over time, be able to conduct raids, free hostages, gather intelligence, and capture ISIL leaders. That creates a virtuous cycle of better intelligence, which generates more targets, more raids, more momentum.
The military says when they find an ISIL leader, the teams will go into Syria to get him and then get out, adding even more special forces will be sent into the region as they find local forces capable of fighting. And more military hardware is moving into the Syrian conflict, and they'll come painted with many new flags. Germany's cabinet has agreed to send in reconnaissance planes, ships, and up to 1,200 troops, with the promise they won't be used for combat. In the UK, the parliament is set to vote on a plan to send their fighter jets into Syria for bombing missions. And for the first time before leaving the climate talks in Paris, U.S. President Barack Obama described how he sees this conflict ending. It begins with all of the parties, including Russia, agreeing on a list of opposition fighters. The next step, a ceasefire between those groups and forces loyal to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
It's possible, given the existing accord that the parties have already agreed to, that we start seeing at least pockets of ceasefires in and around Syria. That may mean then that certain opposition groups no longer find themselves subject to either Syrian or Russian bombing. They are then in a conversation about politics.
But there's a problem with that conversation. The U.S. coalition says it has to end with Assad out of power. Russia doesn't want that. President Obama thinks that could change in the coming months, and that could be especially true if the balance of power shifts on the ground in Syria. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Paris.